That's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is losing a member of my family.
Kelly Osbourne has just broken her silence in a podcast appearance, revealing disturbing tensions between her parents, rock legend Ozzy Osbourne, and his wife, Sharon Osbourne, longtime co-host of The Talk. And what she said about her own mother Sharon Osbourne wasn't just emotional, it was damning. The recent family tension ever since her father's passing has forced many to wonder, what really happened behind the scenes of his final days? Why did the official statement released after Ozzy Osbourne's death not include his two eldest children, Jessica and Elliot? This is not just a celebrity meltdown. It's a story of family betrayal and the thin line between caregiving and detachment. Was Kelly exaggerating, or is there a deeper truth to Sharon's cold silence during Ozzy's darkest hour?
He never lied to us about what was going on, and he was always really honest. And I think that no matter what, my dad has always told me he loves us, and there was never a lack of love. We were never confused about it. Yes, it was hard. It was really hard sometimes, but I think that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it was always, the household's always been very honest and upfront about what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
When Kelly Osbourne finally spoke up in that 2025 podcast interview, no one expected her to say what she did. Asked about her father's declining health and how the family handled it behind closed doors, she took a long pause before confirming what the interviewers feared were just rumors. Kelly wasn't talking about a distant relative or hired nurse. She was talking about her own mother, Sharon Osbourne.
Because we are such a unit and so close that we're nothing without the other. Parkinson's is really tricky. We don't know good days from bad days until you're in it. You can plan and plan and plan and plan, but you just don't know until you're actually in the time frame of where you're supposed to be doing something. You can't say. We didn't even know if we were gonna get to Ohio for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he got medically cleared for the flight the day of the flight. So all of us didn't know if we were going until the day of. And
it wasn't always like that. In the early years of Ozzy's Parkinson's diagnosis, Sharon had been caring and committed. She was always in the spotlight beside him, assuring fans he would fight this. But something began to change around 2023, Kelly said. Sharon grew quiet at home, colder and less involved. It's like she emotionally checked out, Kelly revealed. Ozzy had been suffering not just from Parkinson's, but from years of surgical complications, nerve damage, tremors, and emotional exhaustion. There were days he could barely move, and Kelly said watching him try to walk across a room was like watching someone climb a mountain barefoot. Still, that wasn't what shook her most. Sharon started planning her life around Ozzy not being around, Kelly said, and that terrified her. Trips were booked. Business ventures were rearranged. Kelly said Sharon even spoke casually about remodeling the house, without accessibility features Ozzy desperately needed.
It's only when you actually get my father's book and you read it that I start to realize again how unnormal it actually really was.
Because that's all you knew. You thought that was sort of...
Yeah, to me, and to be honest with you, I couldn't imagine us being any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the end of the day, though, there's plenty of families that go through an alcoholic, drug addict household. And, the difference is that, ours is publicized and, people want to read about it, but, some of the things aren't that abnormal, in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. No, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that can relate to a lot of this, and it's just easy to keep it quiet.
And I feel that the more honest that we are about the normal things that can happen, not just to us, but to everyone, the more comfortable that everyone else feels about themselves and realize that maybe it's not such a big deal. Maybe there is places we can go and all get help and get our dirty laundry out so that we're not all fighting all the time.
Absolutely, that's the best thing you can do, is to be an example. Now, what would you say that you loved the most about your dad because you'd see obviously some downsides to him and some hard things to watch, but what do you love most about him?
My dad never lied to us about what was going on, and he was always really honest. And I think that no matter what, my dad has always told me he loves us, and there was never a lack of love. We were never confused about it. Yes, it was hard. It was really hard sometimes, but I think that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it was always, the household's always been very honest and upfront about what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Honest that we are about the normal things that can happen, not just to us, but to everyone, the more comfortable that everyone else feels about themselves and realize that maybe it's not such a big deal. Maybe there is places we can go and all get help and get our dirty laundry out so that we're not all fighting all.
In Kelly's voice, you could hear the ache of someone watching their father fade and wondering why their mother was already gone. Did Sharon see something coming that the rest of the family couldn't accept? Or was this her way of letting go too early? Remember that time Ozzy was arrested for strangling her?
Addiction, how bad did it get?
Oh, I mean, bad. I was arrested for attempted murder of Sharon. I had no idea. I didn't know what they were talking about.
Can we just stop there? Attempted murder of your wife. Mm-hmm. Right. What happened? Do you remember any of that?
I don't remember any of it. I can remember going to a restaurant, and that's about it.
Sharon, you remember it, obviously.
We came home from the restaurant. I was downstairs, he was up. So
what if she had been harboring ill feelings about him since that incident? Could Sharon have turned the table to become the ultimate villain in Ozzy's story?
Suddenly he comes downstairs a couple of hours later. He's got his underpants on. I thought he was ready for bed, and suddenly he just said, "We've made a decision," and I'm like...
Ozzy Osbourne had never been a stranger to pain. His body had endured decades of self-destruction, from substance abuse to brutal touring schedules. But after his 2019 spinal surgery, everything started to unravel. Recovery didn't go as planned. Then came the fall that aggravated his spine again, followed by multiple back and neck procedures that left him heavily medicated and often confused. In early 2020, fans were hit with the news: Parkinson's. The diagnosis wasn't a death sentence, but it confirmed what many had quietly feared. And the years that followed brought more than just physical decline. Ozzy's speech began to slur in interviews. He'd lose track of sentences. Sometimes he stared into space mid-conversation. Videos of him stumbling down steps or needing help to stand would go viral before being taken down by management.
I'm a daddy's girl. I love my dad.
Yeah. Kelly Osbourne breaking her silence after the death of Dad Ozzy, writing on Instagram, "I feel unhappy. I am so sad. I lost the best friend I ever had."
Good morning.
Is that me? Morning.
Dada. Say good morning.
Good morning.
It comes just days after Kelly shared this sweet video of her best friend looking in good spirits, sitting at the breakfast table with his daughter and grandson.
To the public, Sharon stood by him. She gave interviews, sat beside him on stage, and posted updates saying they were staying strong. But Kelly now says that was all for the cameras. Sharon once told the Mirror, "There's nothing left of the man I married." That quote, now resurfacing, hits harder after Kelly's statements.
Was amazing all weekend and had the best time, and he was so happy to see everyone and so moved and touched and honored by the whole experience, and it was just a genuinely great experience. Isn't it scary? Like, I never thought, I always look at my parents as being so invincible, and then all of a sudden you realize that, like, oh, they're fragile and they're a little lost, and now it's my job to show them the way.
At home, Kelly described a woman who was increasingly detached. It was like she was living next to him, not with him, she said. Sharon allegedly refused to alter her schedule, skipped doctor visits, and avoided staying in the same room for long. In the weeks before Ozzy Osbourne's death, the world expected chaos. He was a rock legend, a global icon. Normally, stories would leak. Paparazzi would swarm. Fans would light candles. But instead, there was nothing.
Say every single day he does this little song and this little dance about how excited he is, and he is so excited that it's a boy.
While Kelly is the first Osbourne to address her father's death, the family did release a statement Tuesday saying the rock legend passed away surrounded by his loved ones. He was 76 years old.
The thought of not being with him is just unthinkable.
Kelly Osbourne, who usually posted updates on her father's condition, went completely offline. No stories, no tweets, no "dad's fighting" reassurance, just digital silence. And that was the first red flag. Even stranger, TMZ, known for breaking celebrity hospital leaks, had nothing on the Osbournes. Not even a single photo or source. Just blackout. At first, fans assumed Ozzy's condition had stabilized. But insiders say the exact opposite was happening. His health was rapidly declining, but the family seemed intent on keeping the outside world in the dark. The media blackout felt intentional, like they were managing the optics of something bigger.
I then kept getting sick, and I had a really bad case of tonsillitis. They ended up having to give me some crazy surgery. And then after that, they gave me Vicodin. And that was all I needed. And
are you kidding me right now?
I went from having every voice in my head being like, you're fat, you're ugly, you're not good enough, no one likes you, you don't deserve this, people don't like you because your parents are. And then all of a sudden, every single voice was silenced, and it felt like life gave me a hug.
So how old were you when you got your
Vicodin will do that.
13.
Vicodin to a 13.
And Sharon? The woman who once shouted down producers, cursed out managers, and ran entire shows from a hospital waiting room, vanished. Friends who reached out reportedly got auto responses, or nothing at all. One friend allegedly texted her, only to receive a vague reply. That was before his death was confirmed. But it was Jack Osborne who raised the most eyebrows. Days before the announcement, he posted 3 now-deleted messages on Instagram, releasing the fight. Not all battles should be won. Sometimes love means letting go. These weren't messages of hope. They read like pre-written obituaries. Fans immediately noticed it and were asking, did Ozzy die and they're just waiting to spin it? Then came Kelly's confession. In a podcast episode recorded before Ozzy's final days, she said, I had to leave. I couldn't pretend like everything was okay. It wasn't. She moved out of the house and stayed with a friend for over a week. What? She wouldn't say. That wasn't grief. That was tension. That was division.
Sharon could not hold back her grief as the crowd chanted her late husband's name. Physically supported by their kids Jack, Kelly, and Amy, Ozzy's widow broke down in tears as she laid flowers at Black Sabbath Bridge. They were emotionally supported by a throng of thousands at the memorial site for the beloved rock legend. A frail and despondent Sharon then bowed her head as she and her family raised their arms, giving the peace sign, showing their gratitude to the crowd who had gathered to show.
So here's the real question. Was Ozzy Osbourne's death really natural? Or did something happen inside that house that no one's willing to talk about? We're getting to that shortly. But before then, kindly subscribe if you haven't already. Have you? Alright, let's keep going. As we reveal what Sharon did that has her daughter bent on exposing
their respects.
Funeral difficult at the best of times, but this compounded with the adulation from the crowds.
The afternoon funeral procession was covered live by British media. Extra on the ground as fans gathered to say goodbye.
Emotional. Emotional. Very emotional.
The fact that all these people are here to farewell him today, like what a legacy.
And fulfilling one of Ozzy's final wishes, a local brass band played Black Sabbath songs to lighten the mood. His casket adorned in purple flowers which spelled out his name as it made its way through his hometown, including in front of the house.
After her father's passing, fans naturally expected some kind of transparency. A hospital statement. A coroner's note. At the very least, a basic timeline confirming what happened in those final moments. But weeks turned into months and still nothing official was released. No medical confirmation. No police report. Not even a basic obituary from the facility where he reportedly passed. The silence wasn't just odd, it was jarring. That silence has now triggered a much more disturbing question. Was the truth being buried on purpose?
4 years ago, I was finding things very, very difficult. And I've been medicated for 28 years. Properly medicated, not just through a friend. And 4 years ago, I tried to take my life, and it wasn't for attention. I just couldn't.
Oh, Mrs. O. You couldn't bear it.
Couldn't bear it.
Right.
You know.
Yes. Yes. And I remember that time. And I remember us wanting to give you your space and your privacy.
So I went to a place to give me help. And the one thing that shocked me.
Several entertainment journalists have come forward, claiming that Sharon Osbourne may have taken immediate legal steps to restrict what information could be shared. According to one source inside the Osborne camp, there are sealed documents pertaining to Ozzy's last 48 hours, including physician notes, nurse logs, and even surveillance footage from inside the care facility. But due to a family NDA signed in 2023, those documents cannot legally be released without Sharon's consent.
And, you know, suddenly these guys come in and they're hairy and they're very, you know, from the north of England, and they don't look or dress like anything I've ever seen. And so I was very nervous of them.
Well, given that first impression, how in the world did anything ever develop?
I went to see their show that night with my father. They performed at this club in London, and I was so in awe of what I was seeing. Again, I hadn't seen anything like that, because all the artists that we had dealt with were very slick and a different category of music, different genre of music, just totally different. And then
when a BBC reporter recently questioned Sharon on whether the will or medical logs would ever be made public, she reportedly paused, clenched her jaw, and abruptly walked out of the interview without saying a single word. That clip has since gone viral, fueling even more suspicion. What's worse, insiders now say that Kelly may not have even been fully informed about her father's end-of-life care. One nurse, who spoke under condition of anonymity, described late-night meetings with only Sharon and a legal representative present. According to leaked text messages, Kelly messaged a cousin days later saying, "It wasn't his call. It was hers. And I wasn't even told until it was too late." Deleted now, but not before screenshots were captured. Those texts make us wonder how decisions were made. Was there a power struggle within the family? Was Ozzy lucid enough to consent? Or did someone override his wishes when he couldn't speak for himself? Could Sharon really have used legal loopholes to rewrite the final chapter of Ozzy's life? And if so, what was so damaging that it had to be kept secret even from their own daughter?
Is that true?
Primarily the Second World War, because when I was born, it was still on war footing in England.
Right.
We used to play on bomb sites and not thinking of a building that had been bombed.
Right. So you grew up in basically a war site, and so you became very interested in World War II history, 20th century history. And Jack, was this a way that you guys would bond?
Yeah, because I was never really into music, and Dad was never really into going outdoors and doing camping things.
Drunk.
There was that.
Ozzy, you can still go outdoors when you're drunk.
Yeah. But I don't
Andy,
the
talk
thing,
to him.
The thing is that I don't come back. When I go outdoors and I'm drunk, I don't come home for about a week.
For decades, the world knew Ozzy Osbourne as the wild, unpredictable frontman of Black Sabbath, a man who bit the head off a bat on stage, cursed on live television, and became the godfather of heavy metal. But behind the cameras, away from the chaos and music, Ozzy was something else entirely. He was a father, a husband, and in his final years, a man completely stripped of the persona that made him famous.
You know those days where you wake up and you can't believe your life? You can't believe your life has gone from being so self-centered and so all about your problems to all about your blessings.
Kelly Osbourne has spoken softly but pointedly about this side of her father. In a series of offhand comments that fans now cling to, she painted a far sadder portrait of Ozzy, frail, confused, no longer able to speak clearly, often slipping in and out of lucidity. Toward the end, he rarely gave interviews, and when he did, his eyes looked distant, sometimes afraid. His voice, once the sonic weapon of a rock legend, had grown thin and brittle. In what might have been one of the most telling moments of his final days, Kelly says Ozzy once turned to her and whispered something that stunned her about Sharon. He didn't elaborate. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked down, almost like he was talking to himself. Fans who once saw him as untouchable were now looking at a man who seemed broken. What he told Kelly was one added fuel to the already swirling speculation that something deeper had gone wrong behind closed doors. Was he forgiving Sharon for her decades of controlling behavior? For the decision to put him back on tour when he was clearly unwell? For walking out during a Parkinson's episode?
Have ever had, and probably ever will, was over naming our son. I wanted our son to have both of our last names, and he wouldn't let me, and we had a huge fight. I feel that I was forced into doing something I didn't want to do, and I can never ever forgive him for that. But we can move on. So right now, my son doesn't have a double-barreled last name. But after lots of eye-opening conversations and some couples therapy,
Kelly saw her father dying, not as a legend, but as a man quietly asking for peace. But was Sharon already emotionally gone before his body ever gave out? What if the real tragedy of Ozzy's death isn't just how he died, but what was left unsaid between the people who claimed to love him most? Kelly Osbourne has never been one to stay quiet forever. For years, she's tried to balance the role of loyal daughter, reality TV star, and public figure. But in the months following Ozzy's passing, something in her tone shifted. She stopped trying to keep the family secrets buried. She started hinting, strongly, that her version of the Osbourne story may not match the one the world thinks it knows. She's dropped cryptic lines in interviews and panels, even hinting at the idea of a memoir or a tell-all documentary. Not about fame. Not about fashion or Hollywood gossip. About her father. About what really happened in that house. What she saw. What she heard. And most importantly, what she stayed silent about. During a recent appearance at a mental health event, she was asked about staying strong through grief. Her response shocked the room. People only love your pain when you stay silent. But I'm done being quiet. The crowd applauded, but insiders say Sharon left the event early, refusing to take questions. Since then, Kelly has appeared more confident, more composed, yet visibly weighed down. She insists her father didn't die alone, but then adds that, sometimes, emotional abandonment is worse than physical. That statement raised eyebrows. Was she referring to the staff who cared for Ozzy in his final months? Or someone much closer? The tension has been building ever since. Kelly continues dropping vague but loaded hints, while Sharon has remained mostly silent, only speaking through tightly worded PR statements or old interview clips. And fans who once laughed along with the family's reality show antics are now watching something much darker unfold. Was the Prince of Darkness surrounded by love in the end? Or was he just another casualty of a family that lived too long in front of cameras, where the brand outgrew the bond? And if Kelly does finally tell all, will her truth paint Sharon as the grieving widow, or the reason Ozzy never truly found peace? We'd love to have your thoughts and opinions in the comments.